You have a very disappointed look. Oh, hello. Hello. Your concern may be due to the large amount of fans that are in the kitchen at the moment. This is an informal video here to show exactly which model General Electric fans there were. First off, we have the basic lineup. We have the W22 and we have the W25. These are just regular 3-speed variants. No reversing features. The only fan, unfortunately, I'm not able to include in this video is my W27 2-speed brown model. It's a very obvious difference compared to these. One being that it's brown, and two being the number 2 as a 2-speed, and no Venturi ring. So it's very obvious. First off is the W22, and this is a 1966 to anywhere between 68 and 69 is when they phased these out. This is the older variation. It's got more power than the W25, and as you can see, they are considerably larger. A lot larger, in fact, compared to the W25. Height-wise, very different. And in the single frame, you can see exactly how the grills are mounted. The older ones are going to have these rubber mounts. The newer ones are going to have these metal mounts. Now, the W22 has an increase of power compared to the W25. W25 is around 68 to 69, roughly, is when it was started. Cross-faded between the W22 when they phased it out. And they ended sometime in 72 to 73. Roughly around that time frame, General Electric sold off their fan rights and stopped producing fans ever since. That was the last of it, and the W27 was the last fan they made. So, first off, we have the W22. It has a metal indicator above the dial, as the older ones did. The 66 to 67 are going to have that, along with the white solid handle. In later years, they switched to a translucent material, even shown on my W23. My reversible version has that translucent handle. So we will start off with the speeds. The W22 and 23 are the most powerful out of the bunch. And these start off on low. Medium, and high. So that was the W22. Now we will show off the W25. As you'll see, the power and speed are reduced on these drastically. In my preference, I like the W25 a lot more. It has a very quiet low speed, so it has a wider range of speed control actually, but just slightly slower on its high speed than it is to the W22. So here's low. I will run both of them side by side after I show the speeds here. Well, we're sucking a bag up. Probably move them. So I'll put it back on low speed, and I will turn the W22 on low speed. They're actually running pretty similar at the moment. There's a chance that they have not warmed up. The older ones tended to do that, actually. They would kind of fluctuate in their speeds on low. But that was just how they were. So the biggest notable difference is medium, for sure. The one back there is like high speed on the W25. As you can see, there is a definite power difference between the two. So now that we're done with the W22 and 25, we will move on to the W23 and the W26. W23s are fairly common. The reversible ones, the 5 wings, are always just kind of difficult to find. There's not a ton of them out there. So this motor on this W23 has been rebuilt. I managed to rebuild this motor. It had a lot of bearing knock, and I solved that. So we will start this one off on low, on intake. Has a little bit of startup sound to it, not much. So, main things on a W23, they really aren't that different from the W22. The only real difference, obviously, is the reversing toggle switch, and it says it's reversible on the badge. That's about it. There's nothing much special compared to the W22. It's pretty much the exact same thing, just with an extra switch. Now, when you move on to the W26, that's when things start to get a little bit weird. So now that this one is slowed down, we will run it in reverse. This one actually runs a little bit quicker in reverse. That's closer to what the low speed is on most of these models. They vary. That's pretty much average about how the low speed runs, though. My other one, it'll reach about this speed after it warms up for about 15 minutes. And that is the W23, electrically reversible. Now we'll move on to the W26, the holy grail of the 5-wing GE fans. This is the hardest to come by as far as the box fan lineup. It's the reversible version of the W25. It's pretty much the same thing as a 25 with just an extra switch, but the main notable difference you may see is the ring around the cage. Some people think that it's for aesthetic reasons. The other is that it actually serves a purpose. There's a high point on the blade. This is the highest point of the blade. So when you're running this in reverse, if something were to bump the frame or whatever reason, if the blade flexed at all and it came into contact with that grill, there's a chance that it could snap the blade. And they put this on here because of how much closer this cage sits to the blade in comparison to the older ones. They sit a lot further away. But that was a design change that they put on the W26 and only that model. And another notable difference is, I forgot to include this, the motors actually. Sometime on the later generations of the W22s, they included this same type of housing. A lot of the older ones are going to look more like this. It's pretty tough to notice the difference right away. Kind of got to look at them a little bit, but the biggest thing are the vents. You can see with the hole there, the single round hole to the vent is open on this model, and you come over to this one, the one with the hole is closed. It's not wanting to focus. It wants to focus on the cage. You can see what I mean there. That compared to that. A lot of the older ones will have that style, the open horizontal vent, whereas the newer ones are a closed horizontal bar. So the biggest thing with the W26 is some people say that they are terribly underpowered. And that is true. They are a low torque motor, so it takes them a lot of time to get up to speed. The biggest thing is these have to run for about 15 minutes usually to get up to their speed and start functioning normally. But if you try to run them without them being warmed up, they're just very sluggish. And that's just how they are in nature. There's nothing you can really do about it. You just let them warm up and then they're fine. But I have let this one run for a little bit, so it should be pretty normal. Sounds alright to me. These do have a more slower low speed than the W25s do. Got some clicks going on from this motor. Can't tell where it's coming from. There it is again. It's one of the washers, I know that. And I can't tell if it's coming from the ones holding the blade on, or if it's the ones that are holding the rotor in. So we will go to medium now. You see what I mean? It takes a while to speed up. And then we go to high speed. And as you can see, it does push out quite a bit of air. It's spinning that one along just fine. So now that it's slowing down, once it comes to a more abrupt stop, then we'll switch it over and run it in reverse. So here's low on reverse. And there they are. That is the W22, W23, W25, and the W26. If you're wondering where the W24 is, well, it's not a box fan. It's a window panel fan. So that's about it for these models.